Stoli Vodka is one of the world's most awarded premium vodkas. With a commitment to uncompromising quality since 1938, Stoli controls every aspect of its vodka making, from planting, harvesting the finest ingredients, to distilling and bottling. This process has been followed for decades to guarantee the consistency and quality and signature ultra-smooth taste in each iconic bottle produced. Isn't it time you picked up Stoli Vodka for a try? For those who know their vodka well, and themselves even better, Stoli, the vodka. Check out Stoli as the official vodka in Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. Enjoy responsibly. 40% alcohol by volume. Imported by Stoli Group USA, LLC, New York, New York.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey. Got some Golics here with me, guys.
Yeah.
First of all, that open was
that was. In case
something.
anybody, again, Jason Fitz in for Trey. Jason was the fiddle player in the band Perry for a number of years, and that was his fiddle. There doing the open. He was doing that a little bit yesterday, having some fun. He'll be back again next week to do some shows. We'll continue to make him pull the fiddle out, something he hasn't done in a while, but we don't care.
Sounds weird when you say it like that.
Well, yeah.
And pull your fiddle out.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
point.
Nothing big happened yesterday. It was a very quiet day in sports.
Nothing went at all. That's why I started watching the Olympics.
Well, and I confessional. We can have another. It's just us
Go
girls
on.
talking, right?
Admit it. We were talking about your favorite sport. You went to figure skating where everybody in the world fell last night. Everybody sat on the ice, but you came over to my sport, didn't you?
I did. I curling was on, and I rolled my eyes, and I was like, "This is going to be an abomination." And then an hour later, I'm sitting there, and I want more of this. I want more curling. I'm not ready to say that I'm off my high horse of figure skating is the best, but I am willing to at least come back to the center of maybe I underestimated the riveting power of watching curling.
See, I found out also this morning that curling is for the children, apparently. I was talking to Ray Netchie, who works on the show here with us as well, and said his one of his children was just absolutely locked in on curling, could not take their eyes off of it. So I think there is something oddly hypnotic. So parents out there, if you want to try this as well, use curling as a means of hypnosis for your children.
When you're just watching the stone just glide down the ice, it's mesmerizing. But last night, man, got going. We had our brother-sister team, the mixed doubles, Matt and Becca Hamilton from Wisconsin. They were going to the last round, the eighth end. The eighth end, they were beating the Swiss team that was 2-0. They had a 4-3 lead. They were just looking for blocks, playing defense. If you're going to give up anything, only give up a point. Go to extra ends, I guess is that what they call it? I don't know. But it was the eighth end. They were in the last one. And their positioning, and the last stone, I said it's stone or rock. I'm not sure.
It's a stone.
The last stone that Becca threw, unfortunately missed its mark, opened up for the Swiss. Not only did they score 2 to win, they got 6. They beat us 9-4. Now, I mean, you're just playing for the one thing, and it's just the way it fell out at the end of that end. And then, but the best part was there was the post-match interview with Becca and with Matt. Not happy. They were kind of going at it like brother and sister throughout the match, and man, there was kind of some short answers in that one. I was like, wow. Curling, they're getting after it a little bit here.
I'm remiss I haven't hit this yet.
Pyeongchang, our Olympic sounder.
It's my fault. It's the Olympic sounder there.
Love it.
Mike, would you and your sister, would you guys battle if you felt like maybe your sister let you down in some Olympic curling?
Oh, I mean, they'd have to have the dump button ready. There'd be so much open cursing. My sister is one of the strongest human beings I've ever met in my life, so she would probably put me near the verge of death. She's almost killed me before. And I have a feeling if I failed her publicly in the venue of curling, that it would probably be more of the same.
She'd turn on the the opponents as well. Nobody would be safe.
She'd turn on everyone. She'd be like one of the, we see all the time in bowling when you get these big, colorful personalities.
Yeah.
It's kind of jarring because it's bowling.
Yeah.
Sydney would be that for curling, where there'd be a lot of there'd be a lot of swearing, very like overt gestures that you would have to blur out on TV.
Yeah.
She would probably do a lot for ratings and not a lot for the integrity of the sport.
There you go.
By the
pretty
way,
much sums it up.
We will be going live to
Pyeongchang
at 8:05 Eastern today. And Mike, you're a powerful man here. I like to think. I think maybe we could get a little area of campus sort of roped off. Maybe
freeze up a curling thing. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
a track.
A track. I guess we'll go with the track.
I'd love to do it. Trey did it when we were out in Minnesota. He shot a piece with Larry Fitzgerald with it in curling, where Trey said it's harder than it looks, but Trey's about as unathletic as they come. So I didn't really take much out of that.
Yeah, well,
Oh, Jason, you're not very athletic.
I mean,
put a fiddle in your hand, you're okay, but have to do anything athletic, you struggle?
I think the two of you could be a doubles team, right? And I'll just be the trash talker for the other team when they go in, because that's my skill. That is my skill.
I think even better, the way I said that Rob Gronkowski in a movie role would make a great Wilson the volleyball in Castaway, you could make a good Stone in curling. We could just throw you.
Just broom me
Put
around
a handle on his back and shove him down the ice.
Scoot you down the ice. You would try and give all the other Stones hugs at the end of the ice, though, on the target.
And it would feel like a loving match. Anything for content.
Wow.
There were other things that happened in sports yesterday. Let's get to some of it.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not, it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
The college basketball matchup we could not wait for last night. North Carolina rallied from down 12 points in the first half. They beat Duke 82-78.
So how'd they do it? I'd say 3-point shooting. North Carolina made 11 3-pointers. It's second most in a game in series history and most in a game against Duke at Chapel Hill. So they hit threes, and they got offensive rebounds. 5 offensive rebounds in the first half, and then pulled in 15 offensive rebounds in the second half. So now, 101 games in, it's North Carolina with a 51-50 lead, and they have a 2-point overall lead in this series. It's amazing, but a nice comeback win for them last night.
Yeah, and anytime you hear series history, a lot of times those stats come with a grain of salt, but in this rivalry, you know that carries a ton of weight because, like you said, we're waffling between 2 points this far into the rivalry, now just over 100 games into the rivalry. It's insane, but another quality matchup from them last night, and like we said the other day, the beginning of college basketball season for many people coming off of the haze of football.
We tried that one with Jay Billish yesterday, and he didn't really. I asked the question, I said, Jay, everybody kind of now tuning into college basketball once the Super Bowl's over, and man, what the sarcastic remark about, yes, nobody can multitask and get up and turn the channel of a TV. He kind of slapped me down a little bit on that one, that we had no ability to actually watch a couple of things on TV.
I mean, listen, that's fine, and I feel for Jay because it's sport, but it's the reality. No one cares.
It is a
now.
reality, that's true.
By the way, we were curious about how experience would factor into that matchup in general. The Tar Heels had just 2 turnovers, tied for their fewest in school history in a game. That feels like experience matters there. So they get the win, and some big news in the NFL. Who would have thought?
Off the Top.
The 49ers signed Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe the most beautiful man in the NFL, to a 5-year, $137.5 million deal. Let me repeat that. 5 years, $137.5 million, giving him the highest average annual value in NFL history at $27.5 million a year.
Is this kind of a slashy thing? Is that part for modeling as well, or is it just for football?
I'm not sure. I know you talked about the 360 contracts the other day. Maybe that's what we're moving into because you have to worry about this guy. He is multi-talented. He is good-looking, rich, and lives in California. I hate Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't dislike him. I hate his guts.
And for those of you that are going to just rant and rail about the money, just let it go, man. This is where we are. It's a quarterback position. I know it's only 7 games, 5 in San Francisco, 2 in New England, one of which he got hurt in, by the way. That brought Jacoby Brissett onto the field, and then he ended up getting traded to the Colts. He'll be the highest paid player until whenever Kirk Cousins signs. The interesting thing to me to see the Ron Borges article in the Herald, he is talking about the thought that Tom Brady may sit out OTAs or brings that point up unless he gets an extension and money is up. Because he's always been that team guy, has Brady. But how about that? You know, when Jason and I were talking before you got in here, it's your backup who barely plays, gets traded, and now is making so much more money than you. If Garoppolo's 5 years, if this deal gets all the money in this 5 years, he'll have made more money in that time than Brady made in his 14 seasons. So maybe Tom's like, you know what? Maybe a little more should come my way.
In an offseason, or in a season, I should say, where we've already seen a lot of very uncharacteristic Patriot moves, this would not be shocking for the timing to be now, where we've seen more behind the curtain from Tom Brady and company than ever before, that he would finally maybe balk a little bit at the idea of being the best and underpaid at his position. Maybe that finally comes to an end. Going to be interesting for the Jimmy G aspect of this as things continue to come out, how much of this is incentive-based, what all is built into this, because I have a feeling that this number, because we know what the life, you never see the life of these contracts. You hear the 3-year guarantee is somewhere around 90, and I think that's built in. We've heard 74.5 as well. So there's a middle ground to where this number is that I think is going to make this deal much more team friendly for 49ers.
And they had a lot
fans.
of room too. They had a lot of room, and between Lynch and obviously Shanahan, the coach there, and Lynch, the GM, they have some room to make moves, and this is obviously their first monster one.
Can we just be honest? Brady now knows how the rest of the world feels. It's not often that he looks around and says, wait, that guy's younger, prettier, and now he makes more money than I do. I mean, welcome to America, Brady. That's just...
You know what would be interesting is Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be the one.
Because that ain't a hometown discount kind of guy. And we can talk about Drew Brees and we can talk about Kirk Cousins, but Aaron Rodgers is the guy that you don't dispute ability, you don't dispute what he can do for a team, even with no one around him. He's got it all.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to get back into that in a little bit, by the way. But we got a little tennis to cover.
Off the top.
All eyes will be on Serena Williams this weekend when she makes her much-anticipated return to competition as part of the United States Fed Cup team.
Yeah, so the Fed Cup team, so she's had her first child, Alexis Olympia, in this Fed Cup team. It would be her sister Venus, Coco Vandeweghe, Lauren Davis. Unknown right now whether Serena, remember she pulled out of the Australian Open, is going to play singles, doubles, both. But bottom line is we get to see her back on the court, get to see how she's going to be, and get to see how much everybody else, all the top women in the world, have to start worrying again if Serena's going like, oh my God, she looks like she has in the past. This is going to be tough for us again.
Yeah, it goes back to that old saying that we always see in sports when people talk about getting to the championship level. Well, I want to beat the best and really feel like I've earned this championship. Do you?
Yeah.
Do you really? Because getting to that championship moment, I promise you, the trophy still looks the same years later. When you recount those stories to your grandkids, it still looks the same later. You know what doesn't look the same? The trophy that's not there because Venus and Serena have been winning them all.
Isn't that one? To me, that's one of the great lies. When you hear the guy say, or even in team sports, when, hey, you won that game, but this running back wasn't there. So what?
Yeah, I mean, Mike,
I don't care.
Don't care.
What do I care?
Yeah. Congrats. He wasn't there. Our guy was. We won the game.
Yeah.
This is way better.
Right.
You played for a national championship. If the entire Alabama team had gotten the flu and that's how you won, would you care today?
We were supposed to play Kansas State in that game if they don't just lose a dumb game. Don't think I've forgotten about that Kansas State. You guys lose a stinker to a bad Baylor team that year and keep us from waxing you in the title.
Not to bring back, a sore subject, but that was the same that Oregon and Kansas State both lost. We all watched it together, and we all thought, oh, my God, how great this is. How short a time it sunk in that said, oh, God, Alabama's there now.
Yeah. We said all the right things. I don't want to. But if you gave me the choice between the two, I don't want to play that team. I don't want to play Serena Williams. I don't want to play Alabama. Give me Kansas State. Give me no names.
Oh, and to some NBA news.
Off the top.
An NBA doubleheader tonight on ESPN with both games, Clippers, Pistons, and Timberwolves, Bulls, featuring a star facing his former team for the first time.
Yeah, you look at Blake Griffin in that trade. He went to Detroit. They're 5-0 since he got there. Now he's played in 4 games. So in the games he's played in 4-0, going against his former team. Again, he got traded there. So I think we thought the purge was coming, but no other trade. Jordan is still there, and obviously
Lou Williams got the deal the other
extension.
day.
And then the other one, Jimmy Butler, returns to Chicago. Now that's one of those that you look at that worked from both ends. Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn go over in the trade Chicago, and a 7th pick, which turned into be Lauri Markkanen, who turned out is doing very well. So Chicago has 3 good building blocks there, and Jimmy Butler in with Karl Anthony Towns. So I think that's one where both sides should be kind of pretty happy with how it all went.
Yeah, I would agree. It's going to be very interesting as we see a lot of, and this is what Woj, I disputed, I called Woj a little bit of a liar yesterday because he really undersold what was going to happen at the deadline. But when you look around at a lot of the teams with these building blocks, a lot of the smaller moves made, I think we're in the interest of doing just that, of creating environments where things like that could flourish.
That is Off the Top on Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN2. A reminder that we have Saturday NBA primetime games on ABC. Tomorrow night, it's the Spurs taking on the Warriors in Golden State at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. It's brought to you by AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. And you mentioned Woj. You called him out and a little bit this morning on First and Last.
I heard that.
I love it because, I sat here yesterday and I said, Woj, any chance Isaiah Thomas gets traded? Don't think so. He was holding out on us. It was utter chaos yesterday.
Here was my thought. I heard you calling him out, and Jason was saying the same thing when I got in here. You know what I think he was just doing? I think he was just underselling. I think he was keeping all the other insiders off the scent, right? So say we're fishing, okay? And we have our fish finder, and you're the only one looking at it, right? And you got your line in, and you see a bunch of fish around your line, and somebody wants to come in and fish with you, and they ask you, "Hey, are there fish down there? Are the fish biting?" What are you going to say? Nothing really down there. Not a whole lot going on. So he moves on, and you get to catch all the fish. So I think Woj is just saying, not really sure what's going on here. Knowing in the back of his head, there's some stuff going on here, but I'm going to keep all the other insiders off the scent. What do you think about that?
It's a solid strategy. I think I can buy in that. You sound like a pretty dishonest fisherman, which is concerning for me as your son, but
I wouldn't do it to you. If it was me, you, and Katie Nolan, I'd have done it to Katie Nolan.
All right, that's fair.
I wouldn't have done it to you.
That's fair.
Your blood, you know?
We needed the help on that one anyway.
Right.
But
yeah,
listen, regardless of how we got there, Woj just spent yesterday dummying the rest of the NBA insiders that live out in the world. He was on top of his game.
Well, and if you missed it, if you somehow missed the news yesterday, the Cavs pull off 3 different trades. They get rid of in the process Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade, Jay Crowder, Derrick Rose, Iman Shumpert, and Channing Frye are all gone. What did I say? Iman Shumpert. Reading is not my strength.
Iman Shumpert?
So it got rid of all of those, and they acquired Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr., George Hill, Rodney Hood in the process. So a complete overhaul. And to Mike Jr., to what you said yesterday, they needed to get rid of people. That's what they did. They got rid of people in the locker room.
Yeah, you needed to carve out a lot of poison. That roster had gotten stagnant. There were personnel issues. Forget just basketball fit-wise, but personality fit-wise on that team. And we said yesterday, Isaiah Thomas was really at the front and center of that. And I think it was a situation where he was being the only version of himself that he knows how to be, and that just doesn't work in a world where LeBron James is still the focal point of that team.
They got younger. They got more athletic. They got better shooting from the outside in this one. So it'll be interesting to see going forward, what they do. 3 of these guys, Nance Jr., Hood, and Clarkson, are 25. George Hill is 31. They didn't really get help in the rim protection area. Larry Nance Jr. is the one of this group that would do it the most. Now, as I said last year, they weren't great defensively last year going in to the playoffs. They started to play a little better, but they weren't great defensively, and they're not going to be great defensively going in this year. But if their offense can pick up, that's defensively, that's going to be a little more want to out of them. Offense, they got better, a little better offensively, and they did. That locker room, man, that thing turned quickly with guys on one another, and wow. And Isaiah Thomas being gone. Think about that guy. I mean, he was the talk of the town, incredible talk of the town, and then he goes into playoffs, and the unspeakable tragedy of losing, his sister in a car accident. Then he gets hurt. Then he gets traded. So then you think new life with LeBron. He is now matched up with LeBron. You start to come out the other side of that. The worst thing, obviously, being the loss of his sister. But, you kind of try and keep going in your sport, in basketball, to mix with LeBron, maybe go for that max deal in the summer. Man, I mean, all that is just gone. Traded to the Lakers. Who knows what it's going to be there, where they're going to go in the future. I doubt he's in their plan. So it has been a road for him.
And we'll obviously get to what it means for the Lakers. But for the Cavs, their GM, Kobe Altman, wheeling and dealing yesterday, said the team had to make a change. This is what he said.
we wanted to be patient, and we wanted to see this thing work out. And we were excited about what we had at the beginning of the season on paper, the depth and the experience and the talent level. But we were really worried that what was going on the floor and sort of our culture in the building, that we were going to march. We were marching a slow death, and we didn't want to be a part of that. And so, with the window we have with LeBron and with this team, we figured now is the time to do something.
That's the Cavs GM Koby Altman speaking about it. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line.
With a locker room that's decidedly less than locker rooms we're used to, with so many players in it, Mike, as opposed to then baseball, you bring it down some, in basketball, 12, 15 guys, it can get, and when it's bad, it can really blossom to being really bad because of the lesser amount of players in there. So they needed to make moves there. And now, did you make enough moves? You get Hood and Hill, which will probably go in the starting lineup with Love and LeBron and Tristan. These are great catch and shoot. Great. They're better than what they had, and catch and shoot 3-point guys, which will fit into this offense. Cleveland likes to do that, obviously. So, and then what does it do? Obviously, it goes to the future. Will this be enough for LeBron to see where they can go this year? They still have that pick from Brooklyn, which right now would be around a 6. Maybe it'll get a little better to either pick somebody or use that in a package deal to get another big-time player if LeBron wants to stay, or I guess even if he's going to go. But makes it somewhat enticing, though it is that way on the left coast as well with the Lakers of what they're opened up to do as well.
Yeah, I think this is all result-driven. If the Cavaliers go on and not only get to the finals but can be competitive there, I think if they get blown out by Golden State, there's still a chance that LeBron looks at this and says, well, it's time to jump ship, then that could possibly happen. But you got guys, and I heard a lot of our analysts talk about the fact that it takes a certain personality fit to be with LeBron James. You have to be sort of deferential. And even when he played with his friends in Miami, with Dwayne Wade, a guy he was super close with, who also got sent back to Miami in this round of trades, even there, Dwayne Wade, before they were successful, had to kind of relinquish his alpha status with that team. We saw that to an extent. That's why Kyrie Irving ended up jettisoning himself from this team, because he was no longer content in that role. You've got to have guys that are willing to play under that thumbprint. And sort of the same way you get aging veterans that join the Patriots, hungry to latch onto this championship model because they've never been there and they want a part of that life. You've got young guys now that I think look at LeBron with a little more awe than the guys that have been around there, have been familiar with him, and have maybe grown tired of the act a little bit. So I think that renewed dedication to him as the center of the Cavalier universe, at least for now, is something that's really the only way this team was going to operate at the level it needs to.
I understand the argument they got younger, more athletic, and better at shooting, but I will say going into last night, they were number 3 in the league in 3-point attempts. They were number 2 in the league in 3-pointers made. I don't understand how getting better offensively makes up for the defensive deficiency
that
George Hill is going to be.
Not going to, but again, they were bad defensive last year, so they're going to try and do this offensively.
We'll see how it fixes everything.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr.
$137.5 million on this contract for Jimmy G. Mike, that number stunned me.
Yeah, it is a stunning number. Again, when you see a deal like that, we don't see any of the other things with it, signing bonuses, incentive, things like that. But it's still a monster deal. What everybody's going to say is, how can you be the highest paid guy starting 7 games? 5 last year for San Francisco, where he looked really, really good, obviously. 2 games in when Tom Brady was serving his 4-game suspension. Garoppolo started the first 2 games, got hurt in the second game. That's when Jacoby Brissett came in. So this is what we have to look at Jimmy G, and he got 5 for 137. So there are going to be people that lose their mind for this. There are some people that are sold that think he's going to be great. I'm going to say, let me give it a little more than that. He's looked really good. I'm not ready to put the gold jacket on yet, but it's certainly going in the right direction. And for a program that has the money to spend, has a GM and a coach going into their second of 6 years on the contract, getting a young quarterback and having that set, and now you can start to build around that. The model looks pretty good now in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think John Lynch and company are putting on a clinic of how to set a foundation right now, and so much of what we do and how we judge is result driven, and this comes up whether it's teams going for it on 4th down and when they choose to do that, or going for 2, is acceptance or denial of that is based on the success or failure. That shouldn't be the case with this. We should still look at this and say, this is the proper way to go about it. They're executing business in the way that you need to set yourself up right. Whether Jimmy Garoppolo and the rest of this team, because the reason you shell out for Jimmy is because right now you're so deficient in other areas, you've got to start and plant the flag somewhere. You need something to build off of, and this is the guy you look at on the roster right now that is young in some places and just lacks talent in others and say, we think we've got a guy who's both young and talented and can win for us now, but more importantly down the road. This is where we need to hitch our wagon to right now, and they're doing it, to your point, on a deal where we've yet to see a lot of the specifics, so maybe it's not quite the monster number right now that we're all just seeing that high annual cash value.
We're all friends here, right?
Yes, I would think so.
If we, Mike's vacillating. If we reach the point where I can just openly tell two Golics sitting across from me how incredibly wrong you both are.
Oh, sure you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good, because this doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry, and I'm not trying to be all like hot take loud guy, but let me at least ask you this.
Yeah.
7 games in, why not have franchised him? They could have franchised him, paid him the top 5 value, which would have been, depending on the franchise tag, between 21 and 25 million. Only saves them a little bit of money. But what it saves them is it saves them having to figure out what to do if in a year Jimmy G's body of evidence is such that it's not as good. Let's remember RG3 was a rookie of the year and we all thought he was going to be the future. How did that work out? I just want to see more body of evidence on a quarterback before I commit to 5 years and a ton of money, however it's laid out on somebody.
Listen, that's a fair point. I'm sure there are a lot of people that would have said because you don't have enough of a sample size to give it another year. But then, so I think they are rolling the dice a bit. Now, again, they see him more in practice and in the locker room as well. They see him a lot more than we see him, and they are obviously sold on him from the business side of it. Not doing that year of franchise. If you do that year, now you set yourself up for another year. Okay, what do we do next year? They're kind of setting, just like you said, Mike, they're kind of setting the base now, the foundation to build from that. If they franchise him, you got to wait another year to do that before you get into that in that big guaranteed money. So I could easily see it from both sides. Wait another year, see what you got, make sure you're investing your money into something that you trust a little more. Right now, they're going for they're taking a risk. They're in that stock market with a little bit of risk.
I think that would be playing scared. I think waiting another year is how you end up with the Kirk Cousins monster that you had on your hands this season if you're Washington. When you dilly-dally around the point like that for a guy and you start doing the franchise, which, listen, that $24 million guaranteed, depending on how the rest of the particulars of this deal shakes out, could end up being right around what you would have been paying, maybe even a little less, depending on what the averages truly look like year to year when you see the way the guaranteed shake out with everything else. So what would you have then? You would also have the rest of the quarterback market taking place, where we're going to see Kirk Cousins sign a monster deal this offseason, where we're going to see Drew Brees probably re-sign in New Orleans for big money, and then next year you got the real ace in the hole sitting there, Aaron freaking Rodgers. And so you want all of those contracts coming up in the meantime, where, shoe on the other foot, what if Jimmy went out and balled under that franchise tag? Then you're in a world of hurt, closer to having to pay more of the guys on your roster, closer to having to pay whatever other free agents you might bring over, draft picks, all there. When you've got the time, space, and money to settle this now, that would be a huge mistake in my mind.
I think Kirk Cousins is the exact reason this happens right now. Teams have seen what can happen if you roll the dice that way. And I understand that what you're saying is, what if Jimmy G balls out and you're only saving a little bit of money today.
Right.
But no matter how this contract plays out and how much is guaranteed, if Jimmy G, after 16 more games, stinks, they are going to have a cap consequence for paying him today. That's the part of the leverage piece of this that I can't wrap my head around. And they put him into a different conversation when it comes to expectation. Because let's face it, when you look at the top 4 quarterback contracts, top 5 quarterback contracts in the league, Joe Flacco, the question of whether Joe Flacco is elite isn't raised because of Joe Flacco's play. It's raised because of Joe Flacco's pay. The question of Matthew Stafford and whether or not he's the guy isn't because of the way he's played. It's because he makes a ton of money. They've now put Jimmy G at 7 starts into that conversation with everybody. They've forced do we really have the guy, and is he overpaid conversation on somebody with 7 starts.
Well, everyone in this organization, you mentioned the 6-year deal for everyone involved in the front office and
right.
Now a 5-year deal for your quarterback. You've committed to working through this in the long term, at least in the here and now. So I don't think the immediate result results need to be as concerning. I don't think letting a contract dictate expectations changes what you do in the building. Like, yeah, we might all look at that different, but he went 5-0 in his first 5 games with them last year. Our expectations were going to be through the roof regardless of what this contract looked like. So I'm not going to use that as a misnomer, especially again when right now we're seeing an estimate of this contract. This is the first look at what we think is coming right here. And so I'm not going to sit here and judge based off these nice round numbers we like to use of annual cash values that don't always tell the whole story in this.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's all we have right now because we don't have any of the particulars, but June of 2016, Andrew Luck led the way when his deal averaged $24.6 million. A year later, June of 17, it was Derek Carr, $25 million. Then just a few months later, September, it was Matthew Stafford at $27 million, and now a few months after that, it's Jimmy Garoppolo at $27.5 million. Why I don't mind? I completely understand what you're saying about the risk, but I think I like what they did just for the fact of now they have this done because they have a lot of rebuilding to do. They have a lot of money to do it, and they said, okay, this part of it is over. It may blow up. If he's not good, you're right. It's going to hamstring him, but this is why they're there to make these decisions. They saw enough in those 5 games and in practice and around the facility that says, we're going to take care of this. Now we've laid again, to use your word, Mike, laid the foundation to where we can build everything. Because we always know when Russell Wilson was playing well or any young quarterback that isn't getting paid a lot plays well, that's always looming there. You get about a 2 or 3 year discount until you got to pay that guy. And now basically the 49ers said, we're just going to do it right now. We're going to do it right now so we know exactly kind of where we stand and build from there.
Well, and because, too, you're going to look around this offseason and see a lot of people, and I heard Dominique Foxworth and Mina Kimes bring this up on the Nickel Package podcast the other day that we do around here. This idea of in a day and age where we just saw Nick Foles win a Super Bowl, where Case Keenum and Blake Bortles were in the conference championship round, do you need this anymore? And that's all predicated on what your team has. And what the 49ers don't have the ability to do right now is win with defense for a guy that can play cheaper. They need some guy that's going to go out there and, on the contrary, have to be the strength of the team for a little bit while everyone else catches up, while they figure out if Reuben Foster is going to be healthy long-term and some of those draft picks pan out.
It's a great point. Also, let's not get lost on the fact that Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota are about to figure out where they fit in on the pay structure too. So how you figure out how to pay other young quarterbacks with the bigger body of work that have been up and down depending on the time is going to be interesting.
Can I ask you one quick question? If he makes $137 million in 5 years, which entertainer makes more than that in 5 years?
Oh, a bunch of them.
A bunch of them?
A ton of them. I mean,
really?
The list, like, we always complain about athlete salary, but then nobody complains about, Taylor Swift making $80 million a year. I'm just saying.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I'm Jason Fitz, in for Trey. With the 2 mics. I'm just going to spend the first Sunday of no football season like outside your door, just kind of knocking and being like, "Hey guys!"
I ain't answering.
Wow, that's what I figured.
I'm going to be in the house and I ain't answering.
You're going to be awful cold too, so good luck with that. We'll see how long you last.
The cars will be in the driveway. Yeah. It's clear everyone's home.
Yeah.
I'll see everybody through the windows, but nobody will answer. But I was just be like, "Guys, want to come outside and play?" Like that. That was sort of my.
You can give it a go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Speaking of standing outside in the cold, that's what they did in Philadelphia yesterday for the parade. That we still haven't heard from Bordop Cliff. We're not sure if he made it.
How about that? Cliff called in 3 times from Philly during the show yesterday. The 3rd time we never even heard him.
We're not 100% sure he was even there. Like, if this was one of those investigative ID shows where they were like, what happened to Cliff? We'd have to say, well, we think he was on the 3rd call. We don't know.
It was the 2nd call, right? That he said his friend broke his own finger so he could get a doctor's note to not have to go to work so he could go to the parade. I mean, that sounds like a Philly fan right there. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Dedication.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, is a parade really, I mean, you know me. I love parades.
I know you do.
And floats and balloons and
anything. Bet you're not breaking any fingers for it.
I'm not breaking fingers for the parade.
No.
Now, I said that before, but then I heard what Jason Kelce did at the parade. You got to hear this because this might be the single greatest parade moment of all time, Jason Kelce yesterday.
No one wanted us. No one liked this team. No analyst liked this team to win the Super Bowl, and nobody likes our fans. And you know what? I've just heard one of the best chants this past day, and it's one of my favorite, and it's new, and I hope y'all learn it. Because I'm about to drop it right now. You know what I got to say to all those people that doubted us, to all those people that counted us out, and to everybody who said that we couldn't get it done? What my man Jay and John just said.
First of all, that sounds like a straight up WWE promo, right? Like he's cutting pro
promos.
Wrestler all day. Oh
my gosh. And then he went through every one of his teammates saying why nobody believed in them, talking about the shortcomings or of all his team. He was going off. He was fantastic.
Got a little bit too real. You guys have Lane Johnson and Brandon Graham coming up on the show later, right?
Yeah.
Like it was one of those things where it got whittled down a little bit, where jokes get so specific that there's too much truth in them.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's Lane Johnson can't stay off the juice, and Lane's back there. All right, man.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Chill with that. I lost game checks for that.
Yeah.
Brandon Graham was drafted too high. It's like no one said that.
No one
tell me
said
how do you really feel?
No one said that except you, Jason.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Bo Allen's not a scheme fit. Like, hold up. Like,
and he went through every single player on the offensive defensive side, talking about what he felt an analyst or one of the experts were saying about that person of why they were underdog. Let me tell you, he was on fire though. That dude, and he had on the wacky outfit, which you called a demonic.
Looked like a demon leprechaun.
A leprechaun, and you didn't know. Now I knew in Philly with the mummers out there that was the outfit. But I heard somebody on your show.
The mummers.
The mummers. There's a mummers parade held each year. New Year's Day in Philly, and the mummers are just, they dress very loud, and I heard some guy on your show say, even if you're not in Philly, you should know that. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't play in Philly. I mean, I don't think a lot of people
Is
know
this
that.
some group that would, like, take offense? Like, is there some rich cultural history around the mummers that I don't know about?
They've been around a long time. I only know that because I spent 6 years of my 9 years in Philadelphia playing, so I did get to know about the mummers, and that's what he was dressed like.
That is some Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. If I dress like a mummer in Philly, can I just go out to dinner that way? Like, can I go to Wawa?
People will just look at you and say, "Oh, he's dressed like a mummer." Yeah, I wonder if he is one.
That's spectacular. I did find out last night, by the way, I have been to a Wawa. I just didn't know.
See that?
So I down in Florida, I went with some buddies. And I remember we did go get a really excellent hoagie, and he was like, "Yeah, that was a Wawa." So I stand corrected.
There you go.
Listen, you've already gone from band to sports talk radio. Now we've got your next career as a mummer already picked out.
That's exactly right.
I really thought it was just sort of a Philly green take on like an Aladdin costume. I did not realize.
You go Aladdin, you went demonic leprechaun. It was something. And let me tell you what. Nobody was stopping Jason Kelce from doing anything in that parade. That dude was going off, and he did have that WWE voice about him as well. That was something else. He was fun to listen to.
Yeah, I think there's a real future there in pro wrestling. He doesn't even have to change. He can just walk straight into the ring.
Oh, he's already
as
psycho,
a mummer
so
and do the whole read that way. It's spectacular stuff by him. And by the way, for you guys watching on TV, that's what he was wearing when we talked to him yesterday.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold. It's very interesting where that went.
Jeff Darlington, yesterday on Twitter, you revealed something to the world. You said, this is your tweet yesterday. As I turned the corner to leave the SportsCenter set, at Woj ESPN was literally sprinting down the hall, laptop in one hand, suit jacket in the other, like Clark Kent in search of the phone booth.
That's a great tweet.
Could have totally been an ESPN commercial.
That's as good of a description as I could have given it, and there was no exaggeration there. I mean, I tried to be like, "Hey, Woj," and he was like, the nerdy version of Superman for sure.
That is amazing. The running form good on Woj
awful.
Could not be
awful.
Good.
It is a good thing that hallway was 6 feet wide.
Did Woj though have the day yesterday that everybody dreams of? Every reporter or insider dreams of having. Woj had it yesterday.
Well, the really interesting thing is the when you're standing in that studio, sort of off in the wings to go on, the producers will come out to try to find you to bring you out there, and they kept coming out. No Woj, no Woj, no Woj, because he's down the hall, literally working the phones and can't be doing two things at once. But to see them freaking out and Woj running down the hall and the moment of chaos, it was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What's the moment like? And we'll get to some of the NFL news here in a second. But what's the moment like when you get a piece of news that nobody else has?
A lot of anxiety, because not until the moment that you hit send, and even once you hit send, you're wondering if someone maybe snuck in there right before you while you're writing up your tweet or whatever it is to move in there. And sometimes you're working on these things for a long time to the point where he might have known about this trade 2 days ago and couldn't have nailed it down until that very moment. So that whole 2 days, that 48 hours, you're wondering, is someone going to sneak in there and get it?
I knew it. I knew he lied to me. See, I knew he probably knew about this days in advance, and he couldn't give me a wink or nod. Or
but my thought is, and you tell me if you ever do this, if you have something or you know something's going to be there and you undersell it publicly so nobody else is kind of jumping on it as well.
You got to be careful, too. You got to defend your turf.
Right.
Defend the scoop. A good defense is as good of a good offense in this league.
But post-Woj, like when we're off air, Woj could have walked over to Golden, giving him a tap on the rear end and been got something for you.
Not Woj. Woj is pretty robotic about that kind of stuff. He knows how to protect it.
Pretty tough to find out Woj doesn't trust me. I thought we were better than that. We had shared, a couple of moments down in the ESPN cafeteria, said hi to each other. I figured that was all you needed.
He very easily could be a CIA operative.
Yeah. Reality set in, huh?
Definitely not actual Clark Kent, though, as pointed out always there. Superman was always pretty easy to spot because he looked the part even with the glasses.
Yeah.
Woj without the glasses, still very much Woj.
I love that we just buy into a character that is obviously big enough to be Superman, and he's just a nerdy reporter. One pair of glasses can apparently do that.
That's right.
It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN2. I'm Jason Fitz in for Trey, and we're joined by ESPN NFL reporter Jeff Darlington. How are you going to spend your first Sunday with no NFL football?
Oh, we got a lot of making up to do around the house. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
We got a lot of things we got to do. I don't think there's I think I'll be doing dishes.
The list got long, didn't it?
Yeah, I got 2 kids under 3. It's just, I'm in a bad place, guys.
Yeah. Well,
and I was in Minneapolis for the Super Bowl. I went home for less than 48 hours, came back up to Bristol. It's, how
much do you wish the XFL was going on
now?
Yeah,
that's right. Anything that we can keep this thing going.
So, well, the one thing that went yesterday was this Jimmy Garoppolo contract.
Yeah.
Do we know any more about it? Signing bonus, breakdowns, incentives, anything because you just look at that number, and we know in the NFL you don't end up with normally that number. So is there anything more to this one yet?
Well, I can tell you that from speaking to a couple of my guys with the 49ers, they were telling me that a couple of things. First of all, they feel like when you see that number, 137 million, almost 140 million, that you just freak out, but they believe this is going to be a very good deal in a couple years. Not to the point where they're ripping off Jimmy, but where it's going to be a very fair market deal in just 2 years' time. They also didn't want to put themselves in a situation that the Redskins find themselves with Kirk Cousins. As soon as they traded for him, they essentially gave up a lot of their leverage. This was not going to be some kind of gritty negotiation where they could come in and say, hey, we love you, but we're going to pay you this. And the other thing, the third and final thing was, they just wanted to set an order of stability within their organization by getting him in there well before free agency, well before the draft, so that they can go into these processes knowing that they have their franchise guy. And it was expressed to me, we know we paid a lot for this guy, but we feel really good about him. We believe in him 100%. He's got a great relationship with Kyle Shanahan already. And I really don't think it was about those 5 games. Could he have gone 0-5 and gotten this money? I don't think so. But could he have gone 2-3, 3-2 and gotten this money? I do think so.
So you mentioned Kirk Cousins and they didn't want to be in that situation. How much does the Kirk Cousins negotiation specifically with the Redskins now impact all NFL teams when they look at quarterback negotiations?
Well, only from the standpoint that if you really look at the Kirk Cousins spot and you go back to when Scott McCloughan was the general manager, and I've had this conversation with Scott, there was one point where they probably could have gotten a deal done with Kirk, and it was right after he took over the job from RG3. But the way that the balance just worked in terms of his rise to prominence and success compared to their value on him, it just never matched up. And it never was going to match up. So I think that teams are best off having conviction about their guy and getting the deal done as the 49ers are doing, because otherwise the values between the quarterback and the team just don't work.
Obviously, that's a big impediment and a big reason why this happened as soon as it did. Another thing I had imagined factored in was Kirk Cousins' impending deal, Drew Brees' impending deal, and knowing Aaron Rodgers coming up next summer. And on the other side, how much do those guys now benefit from seeing this number?
They do. I think the Kirk Cousins one's specifically interesting because you can get your money in the NFL one of 2 ways, either through leverage or through just proving it, right? And in Kirk Cousins' sense, yes, he's proven it to a degree, but he's going to get paid because of leverage. It's not because some team is going to think that they've got Jimmy Garoppolo, because quite frankly, if you put the two next to each other, I would guess that 90% of teams are going with Garoppolo, if not higher. So with Kirk Cousins, it's going to be more about, can he get the Jets, the Bills, the Jags, the Browns? Can he get a bidding war going between those teams? When it comes to Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees and Matt Ryan, those guys, it's going to be a matter of how can we do this to make sure that the salary cap is such that we do have a winning roster around us.
How about in New England? Tom Brady has always had a friendly deal with the Patriots. This was his backup, barely played, now played and got paid. Is there any part of Tom Brady that's going to go, oh, hell no. No. It ends now. I got to get paid.
You would think so. I would think so as a human being. I certainly would feel that way. Tom is just wired differently. He's able to kind of like manage these situations without getting in his own head and kind of keeping blinders on. I don't know how he does it. I hope he goes in there personally and says, I finally want to get paid.
Right.
Like, pay me. I'm making this. I threw 500 yards in the Super Bowl while your defense was crap. Like pay me. I'm getting you out of the weeds here. So I just don't think that that's in his DNA in terms of he wants to make sure that he's doing everything to get those Super Bowls. And that truly, I think, is what he cares about most.
We're talking to ESPN NFL reporter Jeff Darlington. Jeff, what's the next domino to fall in these big contracts for quarterbacks?
Well, I think you're going to see those other deals with Drew Brees and Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers ultimately kind of come together. And then we just have to wait on Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's just going to be a free agency thing. So it's just a matter of timing whether those other deals get done. But all those guys know now that they are racing against each other in terms of the dollars, because every time one guy goes higher, the next agent's calling up saying, my guy's getting more.
What's that make Aaron Rodgers' value?
I mean, whatever he wants. Oh. That's what I'm saying. But that's where you have to really manage it against the cap. And again, Aaron Rodgers is probably thinking the same thing. Like, you really have to kind of get out of your own head a little bit, because you know you're the best quarterback on the planet and you should get paid the most of any quarterback on the planet. But at the same time, football's a different beast than baseball in the NBA. I mean, it's a hard salary cap. You can't just go break the bank and take the whole cap.
Got to be tough for Aaron Rodgers to balance that with the fact that he knows he can basically drag any team to the NFC Championship we saw last year. So it's he almost, like you said, the total outlier in the other direction, where it's so much been proven on the field. But we mentioned the Patriots. How worried are they about all of the noise we're starting to hear about Rob Gronkowski? Because outside of Tom Brady, you could argue there's no better player on their team.
I don't know how worried they are, because I don't know from the team's perspective, but I can tell you that I've spoken to some people very close to Rob Gronkowski, and the one thing I'll tell you is that it is very serious. And people can say it's a leverage play to get more money, because he is going to make less money this year than he would make next year. Right. And maybe money will incentivize him to come back. But I can tell you this is not the result of the Super Bowl loss, and it's not the result of the concussion. He was telling people close to him before both of those things occurred that he was considering retirement, to the point where, gun to his head at that point, he's out. He just feels like the toll on his body after 4 forearm surgeries, 3 back surgeries, a knee situation that he had, that his body just can't hold up any longer. Will he change his mind? You know how this works. 3 months into the offseason, guys start to feel a little better. Exactly. They have the itch. So by no means would I say right now that Rob Gronkowski is going to retire, but I will absolutely say that he is very seriously considering it.
I could see that with the injuries that he had and knowing how everybody has to hit him.
He gets crushed.
He absolutely does.
Defensive players admit it all the time.
And they're not being dirty about it. They're saying this is the way we have to hit him.
That's right.
But I'm with you, and I said that, I think anybody who's played will agree. You're going to have to wait a couple of months until everything kind of heals up and settles down before you get a realistic answer.
And he knows that too. Again, I think there's a reason why he didn't declare this his farewell tour down the stretch. I've talked to a number of players who are like, man, I'm done. And then 3 months later,
I don't feel so bad now.
I don't feel so bad, that itch,
that paycheck is really good.
$9 million more,
if you took a straw poll at the Super Bowl of NFL players who said that they were mulling retirement, I think you would see the football crisis headlines go through the roof.
That being said, I do want to put this caveat on. I believe that this is not just normal contemplation. Right. I think it is more serious than that. But I'd still stay away from it until March, April comes around,
You guys can stay updated on it by following him on Twitter at Jeff Darlington, ESPN NFL reporter Jeff Darlington. Next year, let's see if we can get a GoPro on Woj, and we can have Woj Pro.
That'd be good.
Woj Pro.
I want a GoPro on Jeff at the next Jimmy Buffett concert.
There you go.
I don't want that.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Just remember, if you ever get the chance to hang out with Buffett, call your friends here.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
All right, my son is trying to explain this cat, and I have no idea what he's talking about. Golic and Wingo, presented by Progressive's Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. What is it called?
Schrodinger's cat.
Schrodinger's cat.
I'm going to get the exact definition so I can explain it to you in a way. No.
You know what?
I was wondering when that came.
Behind the glass, you were too late. That doesn't. Mikey C's not his first time on the board.
I'm filling in.
It's your first time on the board.
Mikey couldn't even show up on time for work this morning. I don't want to hear
smokes. No. Normally I'm on the side of us getting crushed for not doing that. That was too late. That was too late to come in with that.
I feel so trapped in between. It's like I'm watching Mommy and Daddy fight, and I'm very uncomfortable at this point. It's Golic and Wingo at ESPN Radio and ESPN2. I'm Jason Fitz, filling in for Trey. And I don't know, Golic Jr. was talking about Garfield or something, cat that eats
we're going to get
lasagna.
that definition at some point. He can look it up.
We'll figure out what in the heck.
I'll have this ready for you guys. It's a wonderful thought experiment that
you just keep working on that.
I think you're really going to enjoy.
How the same guy that
you keep trying to work on that. Yeah, it was talking about peeing his pants.
And now it's thought experiments. So there's a player experiment going on in LA. We've broken down this trade from Cleveland's angle.
Right.
A lot, and rightfully so, because obviously the Cavs sort of move the needle for everybody keeping an eye on what's going on in basketball. But we have to look at it at some point and say we are seeing a stamp of who Magic Johnson is as a GM as well. I mean, we're seeing the pieces come together, and this was a big move for the Lakers because, as we've talked about, one of the main components of it is it clears a ton of money. Depending on what they do over the next couple of months, it could clear as much as $70 million, which would let them aggressively go after two max contract guys. So they could go after a Paul George and a LeBron in the offseason should they want to. Magic Johnson is confident that he's going to be able to lure two of those guys this summer. This is what he had to say.
We had a great conversation a couple months ago, and I told Rob, if we can get some flexibility and maybe a first-round pick at the trade deadline, it would be great for our organization. And I want to really congratulate Rob. He did an outstanding job of working the phones and really bringing back something that I could get behind. That's going to be great for what we want to achieve here, which is first we want to get back to the playoffs. Then we want to get back to being a championship team. This gives us the flexibility to achieve those things.
I should properly identify Magic, president of basketball operations.
Right. And Rob Pelinka being the GM, which is, again, interesting, where Magic, in my eyes, the greatest Laker there was. The very short stint as the coach of that team, part owner of that team, but the success he's been off the court and out of sports, in the business world and what he's done. And now, and his affiliation to ownership with the Dodgers as well. And now going back and doing what he's doing with the Lakers. A lot of people saying, well, what experience does he have? But he can get an audience with people, and then bringing a guy who was an agent, big time agent, in as the GM. It's like, okay, how is this going to work? And remember, we were just talking about, their 2018 plans, maybe they got pushed to 2019 until they pulled this deal off. Now not only did they dump or get a big salary dump here, they got a first-round pick back as well. They thought they might have to give up one. They got one. They're going to clear all that space. So now it looks like it's on again for this summer, trying to allure, and this is where Magic's going to come into play, of being Magic Johnson, of trying to talk some people into coming to play for the Lakers.
It's one of the few times we've heard Magic talk recently where he wasn't immediately fined after.
So true.
I'm sure he's being conditioned sort of like Pavlovian, where every time he talks, he just starts pulling money out of his wallet and handing it to whoever's closest around. But as far as what this actually means, and it becomes interesting now. So they've got room for two max free agents. We automatically assume that that's LeBron and Paul George. Until it's not. Like, this is the interesting problem LeBron James presents as a free agent, is he sort of nukes what could be long-term plans. Like, we talk about a lot of people. What was the strategy that we talked about a couple of summers ago, which is maybe you just wait out Golden State. Maybe you wait until luxury tax kills this team, or age or greed or whatever comes along the way, and you build your team like the Sixers or like the young Lakers to be able to peak right when that's all over. The problem is, LeBron James becomes available, you kind of throw all that out the window because you understand what a unique opportunity
you make your move, and then if he doesn't come there, you got all this money and all this space, and like, okay, who are we going to grab now? What are we going to do?
I think one of the keys, the biggest key to me, is that first-round draft pick they get back. Because let's remember that they don't have a second-round pick the next couple of years, and they didn't have a first-round pick because it's going away in trade. And Lonzo Ball, for as much as we want to talk about the Ball family, he's averaging 10, 7, and 7. That's not bad at all. Kyle Kuzma has been a surprise, and he's a young star for the Lakers.
Kuzma, Ingram, I doubt Randall's going to be around. He's another guy that could save him some money as well, but they do have some youth there.
And so by getting that first-round pick back, when it looks like maybe, hey, they know what to do with those picks, could it at least gives you a little bit of support that even if they don't go and get 2 guys this summer, if they just get 1 and save that the other piece over for next summer, they're at least on a track. That's the biggest thing I think Lakers fans have wanted to see is a track. So we're going to go, speaking of track in the Olympics.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you. I know, but still, it was close enough. We're going to go live to Pyeongchang as the opening ceremonies are going on as we speak. It's Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We'll get a little Olympics.
Golic
makes me want to vomit and then punch you square in the face.
And Wingo.
Oh, he's saucy today.
Michael Eaves, our very own, is out there at the opening ceremonies as we speak. Michael, sort of describe this moment from your eyes and what this opening ceremony looks like so far.
I would say festive. You can probably see Olympic Park directly behind me. The opening ceremony continuing as we speak right now is a vibrant display of Korean culture, would probably be the best way I would describe it. And you talk to some of the local people here, they're very excited to showcase South Korea to the rest of the world because there's been so much talk about North versus South and the ongoing war. They really want to concentrate on the culture of South Korea. It's one of the best economies going right now in the world. And by putting that focus on these Olympic Games, on the world's largest showcase, they're very excited about that opportunity.
So early on here, has everything, I know we've had events starting as the opening ceremonies are going on now, early events starting. Everything seemed to be running smooth. We know we've heard about the cold. Is that affecting anything?
Not really, Mike. As far as running effectively, I was not in Sochi, but several of our ESPN crew were there. And compared to what we saw 4 years ago in the Winter Games, this so far has gotten off to a much better start from not just the games themselves, but also the things in and around the games in terms of the media getting around and accommodations for the athletes and the media as well. As far as the weather, a couple days ago, it was really cold. They thought they were on pace to maybe set a record for the coldest Winter Games ever. It's about 26 degrees Fahrenheit right now here in Pyeongchang with the wind. It feels like it's about 16 degrees outside, but there were more than 30,000 people in this stadium tonight for the opening ceremony. So if they can brave this, the athletes can definitely brave the competition during the day.
And, Michael, listen, you mentioned the show of Korean culture in the beginning of this, but there's also that proximity to the North Korean, South Korean border right now. What's the tension of that been like as the games have gotten underway?
Well, let me do it by comparison, Junior, because you go back to 1988. North Korea wanted to be involved in the Summer Olympic Games that were hosted in Seoul. That didn't happen. And if you remember, North Korea sent an agent to blow up a plane prior to those Olympics to put a fear, if you will, over the games and also maybe prevent people from coming. This time it's vastly different than that situation. You have a collective of North Korean athletes and South Korean athletes competing as one unit here, and you have people on both sides of the issue. There are some who want to see a reunification of North and South Korea, but also some that don't want that. We saw protests on their way here to the Olympic Park from both sides of that political spectrum, but as it stands right now, everything's pretty cool. Even Kim Jong-un's only sister was here attending the Olympic Games here tonight, so South Koreans are hoping that this is maybe a step forward in their relationship.
We're talking to Michael Eaves, ESPN reporter, who's live, obviously, coming even. It's much later there for you, Michael, than it is for us here. One of the interesting things about the Olympics to me is the athletes trying to get used to the venues that they have to actually do their sports in. Have you gotten a sense yet of how the athletes feel about the grounds and the facilities and where they'll be competing?
Well, it depends on who you speak to because some of them got here really late. Some of them have been here for a few days. So Lindsey Vonn, for example, who will be competing in the Alpine division, downhill, Super G in the combined event, she has not had a test run here since she's been in South Korea. But she was here several months ago going down the slopes. She did talk to some of the competitors on Team USA on the men's side to get some feedback. As far as the ice venues down on the coastal region, same thing. People have not been here as long, especially like Team USA ice hockey team, hadn't only been here for for some of them a few hours. So they're getting intel from other people, but once they get more practice time and actual events start happening, it's kind of hard to say how they rate the facilities compared to maybe Winter Olympics in the past.
Again, it's 10 o'clock local time at night where you are. The opening ceremony is going on now. We'll see it later tonight. And one thing that's going on for the U.S. is loser Aaron Hamlin that's carrying the flag. And Cheney Davis had kind of an issue with that, not the fact that Hamlin has the flag, but the process and how it was decided. I think he felt he should have been maybe carrying that flag. Is there any fallout from that, or what's going on with that situation?
Not much, Mike. There was a USOC press conference today, and towards the end of that press conference, which was actually dominated by questions about Larry Nassar, the spokesperson for USOC addressed that situation and said, this is the procedure. It was publicized before it happened. It was a tie, and it came down to a coin flip. Pretty much end of story. If you listen to some of the comments that Cheney Davis made, he did not speak to the media, by the way, today after his practice session, just what he posted on social media. You get the sense, as you said, it's not about who will be carrying it. It's the fact that he was not the obvious choice to carry it, considering his success in the Winter Games, and also maybe this may be his last opportunity to do so. Was not sure if he would participate in the Walk of Athletes tonight here at Olympic Stadium. We were trying to see if we could see him in the delegation. Couldn't really tell if he was there or not, but definitely a little bit of animosity between him and the USOC in that regard.
All right, Michael, speaking of some of the more specifics around the Winter Games athletes, hearing a lot of buzz about Chloe Kim, just 17 years old, really, I think going to be a coming out party for her. What can you tell us that we should get ready to expect or find out about this young athlete?
In a word, Junior, she is dynamic. She was actually good enough to make Team USA 4 years ago in Sochi, but she wasn't old enough. So at 17, she will be making her Olympic debut. She's the favorite to win gold in the women's halfpipe. But even more from a personal situation, her parents were born right here in South Korea. She's first generation Korean American. The local media has been all over her from the time she set foot here in South Korea. So she's going to have two nations, quite honestly, cheering for her when she hits the halfpipe. And she spoke yesterday to the media, and she seems to say all the right things. But at 17 years old, like, how do you really grasp the moment? She's trying to concentrate on just the runs themselves, the tricks that she's been able to master over the last couple of years. And again, she is the favorite to win gold. And if you have not seen her compete, make sure you get the viewing schedule because she is dynamic coming down that halfpipe.
Talking to Michael Eaves, ESPN reporter. Michael, other than Chloe, who are you most excited to watch?
I would say Lindsey Vonn. She says this will be her last Olympic Games. She's 33 years old. Of course, she won back in 2010, but she's had injuries that affected her performance in Torino, and also she missed Sochi because of it. Now, she's on a hot run. She won her last 3 World Cup events in the downhill on the way here to Pyeongchang. She wants this to be her crescendo, if you will, of her Olympic career. And we mentioned Chloe Kim and her connection to South Korea. Lindsey Vonn also feels this is special for her because her grandfather served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, and he passed away just past November. He was the reason that she ended up skiing. He taught Lindsey's father how to ski, and it was passed on to Lindsey. They were very close, and she got very emotional today when speaking about him, saying that he's here with me, and that's why she's calm. She doesn't feel nervous at all going into her last game because she feels as if he's guiding her down that slope, and that's why she's very confident that she's going to win gold here.
All right, Michael, my favorite sport is, now I watch it all because I'm an Olympic freak, is curling. How about you? What are some of the favorite sports you like to watch?
You know, like, here's the thing. I grew up in Kentucky, so I'm not really into winter sports per se from a personal experience standpoint, but I do like to see world-class athletes compete in things that I have no idea how to do. So I want to see the ski jump. I want to see the speed skating in person so I can get the speed. I want to see the downhill. Anything that goes fast, I'm pretty much down for. I will say this, from a personal standpoint, as a fan, I can't really get down with the curling, man. It just looks like shuffleboard on ice. Now, I know it's way more intricate than I understand, so maybe that's just me being ignorant of the sport. But from an overall excitement standpoint, dude, they're just sliding on ice playing shuffleboard. No disrespect. I'm just saying, dude from Kentucky, I can't relate to that, man.
See, Michael, I was with you until these guys talked me into watching it last night.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I got sucked into it. I don't know how it happened. I started a figure skating fan. I ended on shuffleboard on ice. This is what happens. Michael, be safe out there and have a great time.
Teach their own.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
I got a question real quick. What's the betting odds on who has more ink, Junior or Fitz?
Wow.
Man, I could say Vegas odds, and oddly enough, Fitz is home on that one. He's got the 2 arms, Michael. I can't compete with that right now. I'm a 1 arm, 1 sleeve kind of guy.
I don't want to brag or anything. I think that makes me the toughest guy at ESPN.
Oh my!
What about per inch though? Can we go there?
per inch, Fitch is going to lose that.
One's a little bigger than the other. I'm just saying.
A lot less surface area. Those fireworks are my celebration of my victory in this tattoo contest.
Now you're starting beef. That's how we're going to leave this, Michael. I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, guys.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, and to listen every weekday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app.